Last year, I paid for our entire extended family's reunion. Flights, accommodations, catering, everything. It cost me more than I'm proud to admit, but I didn't care. I hadn't seen most of them in years, and after losing my dad the year before, I thought bringing everyone together would help all of us heal. My mom, Elena, was especially excited when I first brought it up. Or so I thought. She even helped me pick the venue, a beautiful cabin resort tucked in the mountains of Colorado. Quiet, surrounded by pine trees with enough space for all 20 of us. I spent weeks coordinating with people, double-checking RSVPs, booking activities. I even hired a private chef for one night as a surprise. I arrived 2 days early to make sure everything was perfect. The staff was prepped, the rooms were ready, and I had welcome bags waiting with handwritten notes for each guest. But when Friday afternoon rolled around, the time everyone was supposed to show up, no one came. I waited by the check-in office, watching each car that passed, convinced the next one would be them. But hours went by. Nothing. I tried calling. No answer. I texted. Nothing. By evening I was panicking. Maybe they got stuck? Maybe there was a storm I missed? I called my mom. She answered finally. Hey, where are you? Is everything okay? There was a pause. Then she laughed. A real belly-deep laugh. Oh honey, she said, you actually went? What do you mean? I asked, frozen. It was just a joke, she said. We weren't really going. At first I thought I misheard her. I felt like I'd just been punched. A joke. Yeah, she said casually. You take everything so seriously. We figured you'd realize we were kidding when no one confirmed. You really booked everything? I couldn't speak. I just hung up. I stood there, alone, surrounded by trees and silence, and I felt something inside me collapse. I spent the weekend alone in that giant house. Ate dinner by myself while 20 chairs stayed empty around the table. I couldn't even enjoy the food. The chef was amazing, but I barely touched my plate. I kept thinking, how do you do that to someone you love? Especially your own kid. When I got home, I didn't call anyone. Didn't text. Days passed. Weeks. Some cousins reached out eventually, saying they didn't know I was serious about the reunion. That mom had told them it was a test to see if I'd really go through with it. A test? It's been nearly a year now. I talked to 1 or 2 cousins, but not my mom. Not since that call. I used to think family meant unconditional love no matter how messy things got. But now I think it's about respect. And when that's gone, when they laugh while you break, what's left? Not much. Just silence. And an empty house in the mountains. A few months after the reunion disaster, I got a package in the mail. No note, no return address, just a small cardboard box with my name on it in my mom's handwriting. Inside was a framed photo of me and her from when I was 10. We were laughing on a beach, my hair sticking up, her arm around my shoulder. Taped to the back was a sticky note that read, "Don't stay mad forever. Love, Mom." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just felt numb. Part of me wanted to forgive her. I really did. I missed having a mom. I missed wanting to call her when something good or bad happened. But every time I thought about what she did, how casual her voice had sounded when she laughed, something twisted in my gut. It wasn't just the prank. It was what it revealed, how little she seemed to understand me. How little she cared to understand. I put the photo back in the box and shoved it in the back of my closet. A week later, she tried calling again. I let it ring. She texted, "Can we talk? I didn't mean to hurt you." It got out of hand. I didn't reply. Around that same time, my cousin Danny reached out. She was one of the few who hadn't known about the joke until after the fact. She told me she felt sick when she found out. She asked if I wanted to meet up for coffee. I said yes. We talked for almost 3 hours. She cried halfway through, apologizing for not checking in sooner. Said she had been caught up in work and figured no news was good news. She told me my mom had started calling family to explain herself, trying to frame it as a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. But everyone knew better. Danny said, "I don't think she gets it. Like, she genuinely doesn't understand why this hurt you so deeply." And that was the worst part. That my mom still thought it was just an overreaction. I started therapy not long after. My therapist helped me put words to things I hadn't even realized I was feeling. Not just anger but grief. Grieving the idea of a mother I thought I had. The one who would have never thought this was funny. We talked about boundaries. About trust. About how sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away even from the people who raised you. I still haven't seen my mom since that day. I haven't replied to her texts. I haven't sent a birthday card. There are days I feel guilty. Days I miss her so badly I scroll through old photos just to hear her voice in my head. But then I remember the silence. That empty house. That laugh. And I remember that I'm allowed to protect my peace. Some people grow by reaching back. Others grow by moving forward. I'm still figuring out which one I am. But I know one thing for sure, I'll never pay for another reunion. Would you like a part 3 where she finally confronts her mom? Or should we leave it hanging with that quiet resolution? It happened unexpectedly like most things do. I was picking up groceries when I ran into her. My mom. She was standing in the produce aisle, squinting at a pineapple like it had personally offended her. For a second I froze. I thought about walking away. Just turning and pretending I hadn't seen her. But something in me stayed rooted. She looked up and saw me. Her face changed instantly. Shock, then softness, then something like hope. "Amelia," she said, almost breathless. "Hi." I nodded. Didn't smile. She took a cautious step toward me. "I've been trying to reach you." "I know," I said. My voice felt smaller than I wanted it to be. She reached out, then seemed to think better of it and dropped her hand. "I miss you." I stood there, holding a basket of lemons and trying not to fall apart. So many things rushed through me, memories, anger, that stupid laugh. But also love. It was still there, buried under the rubble. "I know you do," I said. "But you haven't really apologized. Not in a way that means anything." She flinched. I said I was sorry. "No," I said. "You said it got out of hand. You said it was a joke. You never once said, 'I hurt you and I was wrong.'" Silence. "I didn't think it would matter that much," she whispered, eyes glassy. "That's the problem. Or maybe you did, but you didn't care. Either way, I spent thousands of dollars and days of planning trying to bring this family together. And you made it a punchline." She wiped her eyes. "I thought it would be funny. Just lighthearted. You were always so serious." "I was serious because I cared," I said sharply. "I wanted something real. You took that from me." We stood there, two people with the same eyes and the same stubborn jaw, surrounded by apples and the soft hum of refrigerators. She said, "I don't know how to fix this." I shrugged. "Maybe you don't. Maybe it's not about fixing. Maybe it's about learning." She nodded slowly. "Can we try again? Coffee? A walk? Just something?" I looked at her. Really looked. She seemed smaller. Older. And maybe for the first time, remorseful. "Not today," I said. "But maybe." Her smile flickered like a candle on its last bit of wick. "I'll take maybe." I walked away. My hands were shaking by the time I reached my car. But my chest? It felt lighter. Not fixed. Not healed. But open. That night I took the box out of my closet. The one with the photo. I looked at it for a long time. Then I left it on the dresser. Not as a welcome back. Just as a reminder. That love doesn't always mean forgiveness. But sometimes forgiveness starts with maybe. It's been 10 months since that day in the grocery store. I never thought maybe would turn into anything more. But little by little it did. The first coffee meetup was awkward. We talked about the weather, about the bakery's weird wallpaper, about my cousin Eli's new job. We didn't touch anything real. But she showed up on time. She listened. She didn't push. The second time, we walked by the lake near her house. She asked about my work, really asked. And I told her. It felt strange, like trying on a jacket I hadn't worn in years. A little stiff, a little familiar. Then one evening we sat in her kitchen, the same one I'd eaten cereal in as a kid, and she said it. "I was cruel, Amelia. What I did wasn't a joke. I was scared of how grown-up you've become. You're this force. And I wanted to pull you back. Keep you small. I'm so sorry." That was the first time I cried in front of her since my dad's funeral. Forgiveness didn't fall into place like a puzzle. It was more like building something from broken pieces, careful, slow, sometimes painful. But real. We're not best friends. We're not perfectly healed. But we're talking again. We make space for silence now, for honesty. She asks if I'm okay and she actually listens to the answer. Sometimes I still think about that mountain house. About the empty chairs. The weight of that weekend hasn't vanished. But it's changed. Now it feels less like a wound and more like a scar, a mark of something survived. Last week she sent me a text, thinking of doing a small dinner for the family. Just 4 or 5 of us. No surprises. Want to help me plan it? I stared at the message for a while. Then I replied, maybe. The dinner happened last night. It was small, just me, Danny, her partner, my mom, and my Uncle Rob. Nothing fancy. Paper plates, store-bought rotisserie chicken, a salad, my mom overdressed like always. But there was laughter. Not forced or polite, real laughter. The kind that sneaks up on you and sits in your chest for a while. At one point, Danny looked over at me and mouthed, "You good?" I nodded. Halfway through dessert, my mom stood up and cleared her throat. She held her glass of wine like it might shake itself out of her hand. "I just want to say thank you," she said, looking around the table. Then she turned to me. "Especially to Amelia for being here. I know I didn't deserve it. But I'm grateful." She didn't cry. She didn't ramble. She just sat back down and let the silence settle gently. I don't know what shifted in her or in me really. I'm still wary sometimes. There are days when I hear her voice and something in me still flinches. But those moments are fewer now. Softer. Like echoes from a room I don't live in anymore. After everyone left, I stayed to help her clean up. We worked quietly, rinsing dishes side by side. At one point, she handed me a towel and said, "I don't expect you to forget. I just hope someday you won't have to keep remembering." That stuck with me. Later that night, I sat in my apartment with a cup of tea, looking at that old framed photo. I still haven't put it on the wall. But I don't hide it in the closet anymore. It lives on my bookshelf now. Not as a symbol of forgiveness or pain, but as a reminder of the full story. The before, the fracture, the long climb back. Sometimes people don't deserve a second chance. Sometimes they do. And sometimes they don't, but they try anyway. And you find yourself hoping they succeed. Spring rolled in slow and golden this year. The kind of season that makes everything feel like a second chance. My mom invited me to a garden market last Saturday, just the two of us. I almost said no. I almost defaulted to that old, automatic protect myself instinct. But instead I said, "Sure. Pick me up at 10. She was 5 minutes early. That used to annoy me. Now it made me smile. We spent the morning wandering between stalls of herbs and handmade pottery. She told me stories I'd never heard before. About her own mother, about the first apartment she ever rented, about how she once lied to get out of a date with a guy who ended up becoming my dad's best friend. We laughed. Not about the past, but in spite of it. It hit me halfway through that this was the kind of day I used to wish for. The casual closeness. The warmth without walking on eggshells. And maybe it didn't erase what had happened, but it meant something that we'd both fought for this. That we were still here. As we were walking back to the car, she looked over and said, "I want to start fresh traditions. Small ones. Not reunions. Just rhythms. You and me. Us." I nodded. "That sounds good." She paused. "And if you ever want to plan something big again, I promise, no jokes." I gave a small laugh. "Good. Because the chef I hired that weekend still emails me like we're war buddies." She winced. "I'll never live that down, will I?" "No," I said, smiling. "But maybe that's okay." We pulled up to my place, and before I got out, she reached into her bag and handed me a tiny potted rosemary plant. "For your kitchen," she said. "It means remembrance." I held it, fingers brushing the soft green. "Thank you." She didn't need to say more. And neither did I. Healing didn't look like fireworks or grand gestures. It looked like this. A Saturday morning, a shared laugh, a plant that smelled like something familiar and good. We're still learning each other. But this time we're both showing up. It's been 5 years. Sometimes I forget how bad it got between us. Not because I've erased it, but because life filled in the space where that pain used to live. My mom and I, well, we never became the kind of mother-daughter duo you see in greeting card commercials. But we became something real. Something honest. That's more than I ever expected back then. We have dinner once a month. She still brings too much food. I still tease her about her obsession with ceramic owls. We talk about Danny's kids, her garden, my work. Nothing earth-shattering. But it's steady. Last Thanksgiving she asked if I remembered the reunion. I just gave her a look. She smiled. "I still think about it," she said, staring into her coffee. "I still feel ashamed." "You should," I said gently. "But you're not that person anymore." She looked at me for a long time and nodded. "I'm trying not to be." And the thing is, she really isn't. She listens now. She pauses before she jokes. She asks if something's okay before she assumes. That doesn't erase what happened, but it makes the present easier to breathe in. As for me, I don't chase perfect moments anymore. I chase true ones. The quiet kind. Like watching her help my neighbor's daughter plant tulips last week. Or hearing her leave a voicemail just to say she's proud of me, no reason needed. That framed photo still lives on my shelf. The rosemary plant died after 2 winters, but I pressed a sprig of it in a book and kept it there. Memory doesn't always need to be green and growing. Sometimes it's enough just to know it was alive once. The wound became a scar. The scar became a story. And now it's just part of who I am. And who we are. Still here. still showing up. The years have passed and we've both changed in ways I never thought possible. Not just my mom but me too. The last time I saw her, she gave me a small wooden box, handmade, stained a deep chestnut color with a little engraving on the lid, for the moments in between. Inside was a single photograph of the two of us from that reunion weekend. It's worn around the edges, faded in spots, but the smiles in it are genuine. This was before all the mess, she said, setting it gently in my hands. I thought it'd be nice to remember who we were before everything. I smiled. I didn't need to explain. I understood. We were no longer defined by that one awful moment, by the emptiness and betrayal. It had become just one chapter in a much longer story, one we were still writing. Over the years we've learned how to be a family again, on our own terms. Not perfect, not flawless, but enough. Enough for us to be at peace with each other, even when the past lingers in quiet corners. We figured out how to show up, how to make space for each other, how to laugh without it being at the expense of anyone else's heart. I've learned that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about growing through it. It's about accepting the brokenness without letting it define who you are. It's about understanding that forgiveness doesn't always mean everything goes back to how it was. Sometimes, it means finding a new version of normal. We'll never have that family reunion I dreamed of. But we don't need to. Because the real reunion happened in the moments in between. In the quiet dinners, in the apologies that weren't rushed, in the hugs that meant more because they were earned. And maybe that's enough. More than enough. I put the wooden box on my nightstand. A reminder not just of what happened but of where we are now. I'm still learning how to show up for myself too. But for now this messy, imperfect, beautiful thing we've built is enough.